cool song, right?
It is. It's a cool intro.
So here we are. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Principals Podcast. We are here in the Bear Cave with my two best athletic coaches. No shout out to anybody else because they didn't want to come talk to us. But I got Coach Soffit over here on my right, my athletic director, and on my left is Coach Hurt, who runs our elementary PE programs and is an amazing track coach known all in South Texas. They all want to be him. They all want to know him, but they just can't. So you're here, Coach Hurt. You're going to tell your story a little bit. We're going to get us to a point where we kind of go down the path of where we've been, but more so where we want to go as an athletics department and as a school here at Somerset Academy Collegiate. We're located on 4802 Vance Jackson Road. If you have any questions or concerns, come out and see us, take a tour. We have some of the best facilities in all of San Antonio. And obviously, I've got my best coaches right here with me. So let's start with you, Coach Soffit. You're the athletic director. Tell us a little bit about how athletics became such a big part of your life.
I go all the way back to seventh grade. And my Texas history teacher was also my basketball coach. And I always thought, the coach was just going to let us go by. Always just, no accountability, anything. Just, hey, he's my athlete. I'll pass him. We need him. And he was the first teacher to give me a C or D actually in a class. And I actually still run into him to this day. He's actually a peace officer, not a peace officer at the Little League my kids play at, and I see him all the time. And I tell him, I use your story all the time. He kind of held me accountable from day one, and he kind of made a huge impact on me, just following me. Even when I got to high school, he was still in middle school. He'd come out to the games and he'd be like, hey, Coach Soffit, good game, or not Coach Soffit, but good game, Soffit. And, kind of go from there. And athletics has always been super big to me. I was playing sports since I was like 3 years old. And it's just something I feel that gives kids an outlet to do something besides school. I know, some days kids just wake up and their whole reason of going to school is we got practice and we have a game, and those keep things kids going. Coaching was something I always wanted to do. And it's definitely an exciting time being here and the things that we're doing here. But it kind of goes back to there. That was probably the moment where, I had a coach and then it kind of turned into the pillars that we have now with the student athlete pillar, just holding your athletes accountable that the classroom is going to get you where you need to go.
Well, don't go too far down that path because we are going to talk about the pillars sort of separate as they all work together, but they're also a standalone moment today. How about you, Coach Hurt? What is your background in athletics and what has led you to where you're at today?
I just thought about it. It was first grade. Coach Owens in San Angelo, Texas, outside of Goodfellow Air Force Base. They used to always have like this little Olympics, and I used to watch the older kids run, and they would never let me run because I was underage. But they always said, hey, you're good enough to run with us. And at that moment, it's like it just had a little spark that watching the older kids run and participate in athletics and running. And from that point on, it's like it's always been a part of my life. And then it just went on up until high school, and the coaching staff that I was around that really showed me the direction of how to maneuver in the sports world, sports life.
So track and field was your thing?
Track and field became the number one thing, but it was track and football.
Okay. What position did you play in football?
Football, I played cornerback, played DB.
All right, because you're fast, track and field.
That's mainly the reason.
What did you play, Soffit?
I played basketball and baseball in high school.
Those are your two sports?
Mm-hmm.
No football, huh?
No, sir.
Why not?
I was a baseball guy.
I get it, man. Baseball families, they're a little cliquey. They stick together. That's for sure. That's been my experience my whole life. I played baseball myself. I'll give you just a little rundown of why I love being at this school. I wasn't in the NFL or the NBA. I wasn't a D1 athlete, but I did grow up playing sports in highly competitive family, mostly with my extended family, my cousins and things. We were always going at each other for something. And by the time I started with baseball, and I guess I was 5, and I played all the way through my senior year, off and on in high school. Sometimes I would find better things to do. Played basketball, played football, and I ran track as well up through, I think, about 9th grade. And then when I moved to a small town, we didn't really have enough kids to run tracks. We had to run track with – actually, I had to play football with another town too. We couldn't field our own team. So it was interesting, but football was the sport that was the easiest for me. You know, all the aggression and such at that age was easy for me as a young man. But then, you know, the sport that I absolutely adore and love is basketball. There's just so much to that game that it can change at any second. I mean, it's just, I love it. And it's that whole back and forth, March Madness, all that stuff, you know, kind of drove me crazy. But then I ended up going in the Army after high school. And that, of course, all those things were things I was able to use, skills that were able to translate for me, you know, kind of down the road. And then I sort of had a little side gig for a while. And my cousins and I, we always were about lifting weights. And, you know, we had Dorian Yates on the wall and Arnold and like all those big guys back in the day. Lee Haney, of course, who was just a giant at the time. And that's something that we all liked. And so we did that as well. And so I've gotten older. The running thing has sort of gone away, but I stick to the weightlifting. It's something that what CT Fletcher says, nothing matters except for you and the bar. It's everything under the bar, right? It's the great equalizer in the world. So I think these things, I think with all of us, these are the things that have kind of stuck with us over time, right? As we've gotten older and we become mentors and coaches and teachers and the things we share with kids and families. And it really all is about how those things we learned in sports, that character that we picked up in sports translated into real life, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So talk to me about your 5 pillars that you came up with.
So we got 5 pillars here at Somerset, and
it's Somerset Academies of Texas.
Somerset Academies or Somerset Academy Collegiate.
Either one. Not just Somerset.
But our first pillar is student athlete, and I go back to the story about the grades, and you know, a lot of kids are, you know, they need to be the standard because that's what kind of runs, you know, kids these days is being the standard in the classroom, but on the court as well. Everybody wants to be a good player. Everybody wants to be a standout athlete. Everybody wants to get the accolades on the court. But what are you doing off the court? Are you upholding yourself to what you need to do in the classroom? You got to pass the play. And I know it seems cliche. Everybody's like, oh, you got to pass the play, but holding the athletes accountable, which kind of goes into the next pillar, but still touching on the student athlete part. You know, they're student first and athlete second. You know, a lot of kids are like, oh my gosh, I got a 70. And it's like, well, why aren't you striving to get an 80 or a 90? A lot of kids don't know, but you know, the grades that you have as a freshman, sophomore, junior, they affect your senior year as well. They're like, oh man, I'm not ranked where I want to rank, but you don't kind of, you know, you kind of pave that road yourself. And it's all about staying at a high level all the time. And, you know, going in and holding them accountable, because if they're not holding the student part, they're not going to be the athlete part. You know, and it's unfortunate. We've had to sit some kids out of some games, and they're huge losses. Every kid that's on that team that makes the teams important to the team, no matter what role they play. I always say we're as strong as the last person on the bench, because you have to be good from 1 through 12 in baseball or 1 through 40 in football, because you just never know. Someone could get injured, someone could get sick, someone could fail a class. You just never know. Someone could not come to school that day, and you we gotta be that strong. We gotta be that strong team.
Well, talking about some of that stuff, and it's someone I've been doing this my whole career, right? So got out of high school, went into college, left college, got into teaching, started at the university level, and kind of worked into K-12. And I've been in it now for 16, 18 years. I'm not sure exactly, but I've seen so many different approaches. And what he's just saying about that accountability piece, next man up, Coach Hurt, you kind of take a different approach to track. And it's one that I really respect. You go to some of these cross-country meets and like the parents are running the meet with them. Like,
yes,
that was very new to me. That's never experienced that, and kudos for the family unit. I love it. I love that parents are so involved and all that, but you take a very disciplined approach. I know we got to regionals and I got the privilege of being behind the curtain, so to speak, and watching you work with the kids. And by the way, you can tell how we swept regionals because you've got better stories on that than me, but what is your approach? Why is that pillar so imperative, to your track program?
I think it's when you hold every athlete accountable and you really push them, then they respect the sport a little bit better. They're going to give 100%. And it's like my coach often said, and just hold them accountable for every little thing that they do. But it's not just the sport that we're trying to prepare them for. It's also after high school, when they get to college, and then when they get to the real world. The same thing that they do out here, if they're able to, we hold them accountable here when they get to the next level. They're able to just remember, hey, it was back in high school or middle school when Coach Hurt or the other coaches was pushing me, hey, not to give up, not to quit, and be accountable for everything that you do on and off the field. So that's one of the key things that we try to implement, just make sure that they're just disciplined at all times, even just picking up the trash, picking up their water bottles. Everything is being accountable to make sure that we are reaching our full potential and goal.
And I got to see that at regionals. We didn't even have the meet set up yet. Everybody's still arriving, and we're back there. You're back there. Lock it in, guys. We got stuff to do. We're here to focus. We're here to work. And I really appreciate seeing that. And I know that it stands out with the kids. And this is something, of course, I didn't go to college and play. Like I said, I took the Army path and did that. My wife was a D1 athlete, D1 swimmer. She still holds like 12 records in the state of Illinois as a, not at the collegiate level, but in the high school and, the younger levels. And she always said, everybody thinks of track, cross country, swimming. She was a swimmer, right? That they're individual events, but she always said, no, like swim is such a team event. It matters so much that everybody is on that same page and everybody's pulling their weight. You feel that way about how track and field works as well?
Absolutely. When you're on the track, it is an individual. You're the only one that's running at that time. Or same thing with swimming. You're the only one swimming at that time competing. But it's the entire team that makes it work. The support of each other, the pushing. I noticed a lot of times when we're running like the 4x4 relay, and most of the time our group will stand in the middle and we'll cheer for everybody. And then when they hear your team cheering for you and pushing you to go forward and go faster, I've noticed that every one of our athletes will pick it up. They'll get to another level, and it's that support system that I think that we encourage and that we produce here that makes our athletes just that little step or that little extra that gives them that little extra boost to go to the next level.
Yeah, for sure. And this is an easy transition, but how many of these pillars did we get through? Just 2 or 3?
Well, we've said about 3 of them, but we've only really touched on one or two.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, think about this, though, what he said about how everybody gets behind each other. And I know I'm skipping around here a little bit on the 5 pillars, but the 5 pillars are everywhere. They're posted everywhere, and they really do interleave in and out between the different things that we do throughout our day. From the time we get up until the time we leave here, every day we embrace those 5 pillars. But when he's talking about teamwork, talk a little bit about what you've done this year, creating an athletics class. Now, if you're a parent and family member, you may not realize why we do that at the end of the day in the middle school and the high school. And mostly that's because we don't want to impact the academics time, right? If we're a student athlete and student comes first, then we can't impact that. And a lot of our athletes do travel. We travel to play other places. They may leave an hour and a half early from school. Well, now they've only missed the athletics class, which is what they're going out to do and perform that day, right? So that's kind of a motivation behind end of the day athletics periods. But you've taken it to another level in that athletics class. Tell us a little bit about how that works.
So I think number one, having them in there for the study hall period is important too, because we're able to check their grades, and it kind of gives the kids in that class an opportunity to see what they're missing and what they need to catch up on. And it's not just a 30-minute free period. It's a 30-minute, hey, let's see where we're at. And every 9 weeks, about halfway through, call them all up, pull all their grades, and like, this is where you stand. This is what you're doing right now. This is the reflection on what you've put out so far. But in the class, a lot of it, discipline, you hear that all the time in athletics, the kids got to be disciplined and stuff. And, we do. And I always say a lot of the time, the little things make the big things happen. It's one of
John Wood.
Yes, John Wooden. And it's true. Like, we do our warm up and I make them clap and say Bears. And I'm like, if I can't get you to clap and say Bears in this class with the game on the line, am I going to pass you the ball with the game with can I trust you enough to do that? And me and Coach Montez will go around, we'll start talking to him. And when we talk to him, it's like in a game, like I'm distracting you. I'm hoping you don't cop and say Bears. I'm seeing how locked in that you are and keeping them focused. And going from there, after the warm up, we have two groups. We kind of split them up on their max on the bench. So we're not wasting time in the weight room. My first year here, I just kind of was like, oh yeah, here you go. And again, you learn, but here you go, find your group. Oh, then everybody go works out with their friends. And I watched somebody one time just kind of sit there and they wasted 14 minutes and 21 seconds in the weight room just sitting there talking with their friends.
That's an accurate memory, boss.
It is. And because I timed it on my phone and I was like, I got to switch this thing up. It's got to get changed. And so now what it is, it's just based off how much you max out. So if we all max out the same, which we don't, but if we did, it'd be less time. So you're doing 50% of your max and then you do 60%. We're not wasting time pulling weights off. You're going to lift the same as me and him. And we're not wasting time in the weight room. Every minute I think in there is crucial. Also another thing, we do a bunch of the running with the 800 meters. It's kind of in between long and short distance running. It's kind of like right there in the middle. I mean, we still do our agility stuff and everything else that you want to get accomplished as well. And then turning that into our normal workout, I call that the normal workout, but turning it into competition Fridays that we have. So if there's an A day or a B day, whoever gets us on Fridays getting that extra day of competition. Sometimes it's a tire pull. Sometimes it's sprinting relays. Sometimes it's tug of war. Sometimes it's, cone pick up in the middle, just seeing who's going to, and I say it all the time and the kids make fun of me all the time, but I tell them, empty the tank, everything that you got in this round, let's give it, give everything you got. And I don't split them up by their friends. I just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and y'all are on a team and you got to trust the people that are on your team to get it done. And, I kind of tell them kind of be comfortable being uncomfortable, because this is a class where you're going to have to do some things and working out that maybe you're not as comfortable doing. And I told them that, sometimes you'll come in here and you'll work out and you do different things with nobody in the stands. But what are you going to, and everybody wants the ball in their hand with the game on the line. But what are you doing when no one's in the stands? Are you giving that same 100% effort that you should be giving all the time? And it's hard to get 100% out of the kids. Sometimes I'm like, hey man, if you're at 70%, I need all 70% that you got today to get better. And it's hard. Some kids, maybe they didn't sleep last night or whatnot, but, turning the athletic class also into a boot camp that we just did very recently, a couple of weeks ago. And I told them I needed 5 good days. Then that was going to get them for us to stop. And the front of the shirt said, habits reflect the pillars. And I said, I don't have to put good habits because we should already have those good habits. It's just the habits reflect the pillars. And, it was really just getting them mentally prepared. I think a lot of the time when we go compete against a lot of teams, we're definitely up there in San Antonio now in the charter world. They see us coming. We're there at the end. We're in a lot of regional championships. We've sent a lot of teams to state the last couple of years. It's really the mental aspect. When the game gets tough, like how tough are we? And, it was real simple. Went back to the clapping and saying Bears. They didn't do it. We started the whole entire warm up over. It had to start all over. And really just get the kids to lock in. And we did sometimes it was just simple stuff of, running and, on mat drills, just doing things that we're going to get them hype. I mean, heck, they got me so excited one day I sprained my ankle. So that's what it was. That was what it was about. I wanted them to break out of their shell and get excited and really mentally like lock in athletics. And
that they did. And I like to come in there and videotape what's going on. And, I share it to all of my principals all over the country, anywhere I can. And I'm like, this is how you run PE. This is what PE is supposed to look like. And it's what the other thing about that's incredible is I was there the day that at the end of the day, they came together and they do their big cheer and their breakdown, right? And the kid said, we didn't earn it today. We got to do it again. We got to do another day because this wasn't enough, right? And and this is the thing that I can't overstate. Every time I get a mic in front of me or I'm talking to somebody in the community, our kids are spectacular kids. They have all that character. They need someone, and you may have heard this before, but kids need a coach in the classroom and a teacher on the field, right? And the way we say that is coaches are there to motivate. So when you're sitting down and you're doing something hard that you don't necessarily love to do, right? If you're doing advanced algebra, you're in algebra 2 and you're like, oh, this is hard. You need someone that's going to motivate you, pep you up, get behind you and say, you've got this. I've got your back. We're going to get there. But when you're doing something that you love, and most of the kids, they come out and run for you, or they play football or baseball or whatever, right? Or cheer. They come out and that's what they want to do. So then the coaches, we have that unique ability that now we get to provide them with, we get to be teachers. We get to show them how to take it to the next level. We were talking about how to break down football in my office yesterday. And you got to take it all the way back. Kids don't know what the 2-hole, the 4-hole, the 6-hole, the 5-hole. They don't understand that just yet. So you got to start at the beginning sometimes. But the beauty of being part of something where you're not wasting your time on discipline over and over again, you're not wasting your time on kids that aren't committed. You know, our kids are pretty committed. They really want to be a part of this. And it really has blown up this program quite well. Don't you think? I mean,
absolutely. It's a big difference. And you can see that even in the other sports, that it translates from there and then going into the other spring sports, especially. It's a big difference that their confidence and their mental capacity is at a different level after those athletics classes.
And, you know, I know several, and this is funny, and I kind of want to get your thoughts on this, Coach Hurt, but I know several pro athletes that have either worked for me or I've met because of the job that I do and traveling around. And, you know, Florida is another big sports state. Lord knows that it's not bigger than Texas. I'm not allowed to say that, and I know, and it's okay. But what's funny is you sit around and you start talking to the guys or the girls that have done these things. Everybody sits around and they talk about their glory days. They start talking about their high school experiences. Guys that have been in the league for 8 years, 10 years. They're not telling stories, right, about what they did in their 4th season. They're talking about the things that happened to them in middle school and high school, because I think that it's such a big part of your, you know, building the person that you are to become, that once you achieve those successes, it's just so much easier. So it's more fun to look back on how you got there versus talking about that. Does that make any sense at all to you?
It does. I think that time frame is vital, because that's when you're really trying to figure out who you are and what direction you're going to go around middle school, high school. So when you're starting to experience those things are like the first things that you experience. You remember those clear. I can still remember some of the games that I played in middle school, exactly to the last second, you know. But then there's some days in college that I can't remember where were we in with nationals. I can't remember some of those events. I think those first experiences are so important. The coaches at that time, you remember everything that they said. Those things are valuable for you for the rest of your life.
And I think that's why I have such a vast variety of programs, right? We've got baseball, softball, which you can give them a little quick shout out on what's going on in softball right now, because it's big news.
It is. Softball's going to the state tournament this weekend, finally knocking off South Flores. It's been kind of, you know, they're one roadblock to get there the last 3 to 4 seasons. And, you know, they're able to pull it out last Saturday, 9-7. You know, is real exciting for them to go there. They're going to get to go play at Texas State this upcoming Friday, play on a D1 field and go fight for a state championship. You know, and again, back to the athletic class, you know, I preach every day, like, let's bring home state championship, and they're still got somebody standing this year to try to bring one home. You know, definitely hoping it happens. They think they got a great shot, you know, and it's cool that we're sitting here on May the 14th and we still got someone playing. We've been playing since school. We were back in school. We've had tryouts like August 1st. We've been in this thing since day one of school, and we're still alive. So
yeah, and that's a testament to the work that goes into the programs. And I know we put a ton of work in, but you know, maybe they'll have some glory day stories to tell now that they get to go to state, and that'll be good.
And I always tell them also, speaking on that, you know, I always tell them, I wish I had one more at bat. You know, I kind of took those moments for granted back then. You know, sometimes I was there and I was like, man, I'm just ready to go home. And I tell the kids, I was like, man, until they're a senior and it's like over, they sometimes don't realize that it's over. You know, they really think they're about to come try out again next year and do it all over again. And I'm like, you got to take everyone like it's your last one, and just having that one more opportunity to do something.
It's like that country song where it says, next time I come in here, I got to buy a ticket. Right.
Yep.
Like
you're absolutely right.
That nostalgia piece to it. This is the stupidest thing. I don't know why I'm even telling the story, but I still dream at 44 years old of the first time I ever dunked a basketball, and there's just freedom of you feel like you're flying. You know, now I can't walk up the stairs without pain, but like that moment sticks with you forever. And I can't believe I'm 44 and I still have that. I mean, I have that dream like once every 2 weeks. Like it's that common that I can still dunk a basketball, which I cannot. But you know,
We could lower the rim.
we
I'm
can
just
lower
kidding.
I might have to lower it a little bit more. But okay, basketball. Speaking of basketball, we had a great basketball season this year. We have a very prolific basketball program because we start in 4th grade. We go all the way through high school. We have boys teams, girls teams. I mean, we have a huge, massive amount. I wish Coach Marlin was here for us to talk today because he's got the gift of gab, and he'd be able to tell some good stories about what his kids have been up to as far as basketball has gone. But we got time. We'll do that again. We've got soccer, we've got wrestling, and I think some athletes did pretty well in wrestling this year as well.
Yes, sir.
We
We brought home some state championships in wrestling, some individual awards there. And then we also had a middle school team won state. So as a group. So those were the wrestling things. And again, wrestling program, we're only 2 years in. We started the wrestling club 3 years ago, and then the league started wrestling, and we joined wrestling last year. So last year was the first year we actually did it. And then this year, wrestling, and again, we got to go to Texas State this year, do the state meet. And the league borrowed our mats. So obviously, having wrestling mats is a big thing. We were able to help the league out and provide them with the mats they needed to get the competition done, because wrestling's so new. I'm blessed to have the mats. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, and I know this isn't a district podcast, but I got to shout out our sister school on the south side because they've got a commendable wrestling team down there, and they're going to be the school, I think, that pushes us to train harder and to work harder to get further down that path in wrestling. We also have football, flag football, and again, we start as early as 4th grade with those sports. Volleyball, which what a great season we had in volleyball as well this year. We got some kids that travel. They play on travel ball. They're very good athletes, and I can see that program winning state championships again and again. And then, of course, we've got cheerleading and pep squad. And we have esports here, which we're just putting in a new lab this year, which will help because it's going to have, kind of told this in the academics podcast earlier, but it's going to have i7s in it. So most of the computers that your kids use at school are little i3s, and that means they don't have a lot of computing power. I don't know what the sort of designation and the nomenclature is behind it, but we got i7s, which are pretty top of the line. They're not cheap, but that will allow kids to get certifications. Really, we're going to get to talking a little bit more about max preps and different programs like that we're going to be incorporating here. But those programs allow them to cut and edit and store larger footage. So that's going to be helpful for them as well. And I don't want to gloss over this. I actually want to come back to this. We touched briefly on it earlier, but track and field and cross country, you had just a phenomenal regional event this year. Yeah. Talk us through how that went, how many kids. I know we started talking about it, but I just kind of want to really showcase where they went.
Track and field, for the most part, we had 54 athletes that went into regionals. Middle school girls and middle school boys both won the regionals, and their high school girls and high school boys also won regionals. So we had a total sweep from top to bottom. And from that 54, we sent 40, made it to our state championships.
It's absolutely incredible. Why don't they have, and I noticed this at the state, and I don't know the answer. So before I go spending money, I kind of need to figure this out, but they don't have hurdles, they don't have high jump, and they don't have pole vault. Why not? Is that not a thing in Texas? No, we don't do that here.
It is a thing, but I think for some of the schools that are getting started, to add those extra events it's not cost effective. So a lot of schools don't have those items to be able to train. So they sort of eliminated those out until the schools can catch up and make sure they have those available. But it is an actual event in the state of Texas.
That's unfortunate that I want to go down that path. I think we're going to talk about what's new here in a minute, but I know why a lot of those schools don't have them, because when I came out and I was like, when we did our first invitational meet this year and we were out here all day that Saturday, I was like, huh. So I started Googling. Just to get you the amount of hurdles that you need is going to cost me about $16,000.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And to get a real mat for high jump, you're at 25,000 or more. Some of them go up significantly above that, So I can see why they don't have it. But man, if we can provide that opportunity down the road here and get some of those things for our kids, I think that'd be incredible. And I say that because I ran the hurdles. It was one of those things where I didn't know that I was going to do that. I was very much they called me the utility man. I wasn't great at anything I did, but I could pretty much do a little bit of everything, right? So I threw shot and disc and did all that, but then I ran the hurdles on 4x2 and the 200, and I could run distance pretty well. Same thing in football. I played nose tackle, and we had a rotating. Everyone went to nose tackle when I wanted to go somewhere else, which is really a strange setup, right? But so if I knew that they were always running right, I would move my tackle over to nose tackle, and I would go to tackle. And my senior year, and it was kind of cool. It gave us an opportunity to maybe make a few more plays or do whatever, but. Again, I wasn't great at anything. I was never going to be the starting quarterback. I wasn't a pitcher. I didn't do all that kind of stuff. I was very much a utilitarian kind of guy. But I think I want to bring those things here if we can do that, because running the hurdles is just cool. It's awesome. We're talking here a little bit about where we're going. So we've done a lot. Winning state championships and bringing kids down and giving them that experience, I think, is incredible. But I've met with several of our coaches in the last month or two. In fact, I sat down with, I believe, you and Coach Freeman even further back last summer, and we were already kicking around the idea of, okay, we've got some really great things happening, but what's next? What do we have to do to take our programs to a statewide, national level, and then potentially beyond that to be recognized and get our athletes? To me, the most important thing is getting our athletes opportunities outside of Texas, if that's possible, right? To give them an opportunity to go to college where otherwise they may not have had one. So talk to me a little bit about some of the concerns that we've already had discussions about where we want to go with some of our programs.
I know one of the things is really not the exposure to play at the next level. It's kind of just come here and where are you going to go to school? And teaming up with Coach Washington, talking about, the NIA portal, the JUCO portal, the NCAA portal, and getting our kids registered in there and just seeing if they're even eligible enough to do that stuff. Nowadays, everything is all digital, and getting the kids on, whether it's the field level app and different apps that you can use to kind of expose them as athletes and kind of put everything, kind of build their own profile and kind of be seen at the next level. And those are things that we haven't done. I wouldn't say haven't been able to do. We just haven't done it. And that was something on my goal list, to make sure that we have all the kids signed up and seeing, if they're headed down the right path, and that kind of can touch on to the part about the max prep and the huddle. Getting huddle this year for football was huge. Did we have the season we wanted? No, but able to put out the film to the kids to be able to just study. Hey man, you're on defense. Look, we never did that stuff. That's, I think watching film is a lost art, I think, in the game, because it's something that, you learn a lot from. I can even go back to when I first started here with basketball. We couldn't beat Jubilee. We just couldn't. That was Jubilee San Antonio was the school we could not beat. I kind of go back to, we were filmed a game when we lost, and I kept watching the film. Coach Montez like, man, like, what are you looking for? I was like, I'm looking for the weakness on them, their defense. I said, it's somewhere. It's somewhere. And so we put in a whole new offense next time we played him. Lost to them, I think, in overtime by 1 point. But it just showed like, hey, we need to do these things, because they do show things that are going to help our kids out. It's not just showing up and playing. It's about studying the game that you want to do and seeing your mistakes and learning from them, you know, you can learn from the good things. Everybody wants to see their touchdown. No one wants to see the missed block that they had, but it's about looking at the missed block so you don't do it again.
Like Michael Jordan said, I don't remember any shot I made. I remember every shot I missed.
Exactly. And even now, you know, starting about where we're going, you know, we've been a 6-man tackle football program. We're 11-man now. We're going 11-man next year. And we've been filming our practices for more of our sake as the coaches are we instilling the offense the right way? And then we're getting the kids on there too, so they can start watching. Cause I mean, 11-man to 6-man is two different things. There's more than just a center. Yeah. You know, you got your guard, your tackles, tight end. How are we blocking? You know, like you said about all the numbers, the 2, the 4, the 6, the 1, the 3, the 5, and getting the kids there and being able for them to see it on film, because you're able to draw on the screen, pause on the screen, and really utilize the Huddle app to its best ability that we can. Like I said, there's some things on there I didn't even know were on there, but you know, really utilizing it and helping our kids out. 'Cause that's what it's about. You know, when we're out there, like you said, teaching them, we're teaching them a sport. So that's our resource. That's our resource to help them.
And we talked yesterday about football in particular and how, you know, basketball there's just a few things you need to know, and then you got to execute better than your opponent. Mm-hmm. Football, the more you know and understand about the game, the better you play your position. So it is a mental game. And interestingly enough, with football is it's happening like that, right? There's some things where you're reacting and you don't even realize it, right? There's some decisions you're making and you don't even realize it. But the more you know about the game, the faster your brain can even make those decisions. And it's interesting with track and field is the mind-muscle connection there is so critical to get better, because you're trying to knock off in some cases 1/10 of a second or 100th of a second, right?
Right.
That mind-muscle connection is a completely different approach than a basketball or a football piece, right? And then, of course, in baseball, you've got this whole other thing with hand-eye coordination that maybe even is beyond what's happening on a basketball court, right? So this is why I think it's so critical that we offer all these sports and that we continue to build what we're building, because these skills apply across the board to so many other facets in life. You know, what do you think some of the things that we need to be bringing in that we haven't been, you know, necessarily implementing up to this point?
I think we're on the right path. I think one of the key things now is the nutrition, taking care of our bodies, you know, and really focusing on rest and recovery. And then, as Coach Safid was saying, really lock in on studying the game. I know there's a lot of times an athlete just say, "Hey, I know that play. I saw it on a video game." You know, that's not really studying. That's a video game. You know, really studying the game, really focusing on watching sports, not just the professional, but when you're young, you should be watching the colleges and high school games and really just understanding from top to bottom what are you supposed to be doing, and then do some personal training also. Don't wait until the season starts to put in work. It's too late. Off season is the most important portion of that, because when the season starts, you shouldn't be getting in shape. You should already be in shape. You should already know your stances. You should already be strong in strength. When the season starts, you should be going in, doing the technical things, doing the chess pieces, you know, learning your offense and your defensive schemes more so. And I think, but right now, I believe like we're in the right direction. We're going in the right place and look like we're going to have a greater and better season as we move forward.
Well, I'm glad you said those things, because there's a couple of things here that I think this is a great time to say it. Parents come to me fairly regularly asking about the arts and about athletics. What can we do? What can we give back? How can we be a part of this? Right. And I think nutrition is a prime place where parents, if they're not sure how they can give back to the school or to their athletic programs, this is an excellent choice. Like, protein shakes are expensive. You know, I grew up one of those kids, at least for about, I would say, 3 years of my high school career, freshman, sophomore, junior year. I was essentially eating at other folks' houses or getting a bag of chips. I stocked the vending machines at school so that I could get a bag of chips and a soda. Like, my parents never filled out the free and reduced lunch form for me. And then I didn't have any money to eat, right? So if my aunt didn't feed me, or my girlfriend's mom didn't feed me down the road or whatever, I didn't eat. We still have kids today that go through that same sort of piece. And if all you're eating is junk food all day and you're not getting that real prime nutrition that you need to recover, and protein is really important, that's an area that families could be a part of. Sponsoring our athletic events where you're like, I'm going to make sure that they get fed every, third soccer game or whatever, and if you can't do that, maybe you can reach into your friend circle and say, well, who can, right? Who owns a restaurant that I know? Or even in my last district, we had a mom that was just a phenomenal cook, and she cooked for him. Like, and that's what they wanted. They would prefer that over Subway any day, because she was so much better at it. So that's a good area that I think that parents and members of this community can get behind and kind of help us out with that growing goal of food and nutrition. And then I think I was talking to you the other day about this, but I want an announcer for athletics, whether it's basketball, football, soccer, whatever. We have all this giant facility, and I want this program, Max Preps and what'd you call it, Field House, or
Field level,
mm-hmm. All the different programs that are out there. This can make it better, right? Mm-hmm. Having a TV production lab, having kids that know how to cut, edit video to really make that shine, I think is a huge part of it too. But when we put an announcer in, it feels like a real game, right? It feels like there's something really powerful happening right there in front of you. And this is one thing I always want to bring in. I'm all about empowering kids and sharing in their successes. So if we had an announcer for all of our home games, we used to do this thing. My last vice principal, Andre Gainey, I love him to the end. He had this idea. Each week he'd go around he wouldn't ask you to email him. He'd go to every room and knock on your door. Hey, where's my shout outs? And every teacher had to give him 5 shout outs of something great that was happening for one of the athletes on the team. And so every little commercial break, every between downs, every timeout, whatever, you talk about the kids in your school. You talk about the kids on that field or on that court, right? And you shout them out and you say all the great things that they've been up to. And if we don't have an announcer, we can't do that.
I think I got somebody. Well, we'll work on that.
And I guess the final piece I'll say about that is, and you're pretty good at holding me accountable to this, but I always say I don't have dreams, I have goals, because I can make a goal happen. If we speak something into existence, we're going to make it happen. Like, we're going to die trying.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
We have to make it happen.
I agree. So we need to make dunking a goal, not a dream.
I think that shit may have sailed, but
I did want to touch on the off-season program. I know we talked about it, and that was something that we had not done. There's summer leagues for your big ISDs and different things that we never would participate in. Our varsity boys or high school boys basketball program is going into the third summer of playing. Our varsity girls basketball program is going into the second summer. Our volleyball program, we've been able to, break up into 2 teams and have a summer program and go compete and play in summer programming. And I know even an off-season program, the softball team played in the fall ball and played and got to start playing with each other, got to know each other. And I think those things are, like Coach Hurt said, you can't show up the first day of basketball tryouts and the night before, I'm going to start dribbling a basketball. That's just not how it works. It's just not. But the kids got to understand the important programs we offer in the summer, strength and conditioning, and again, everything's trial and error. Last summer, we did weeks of 4 hours of a basketball or volleyball camp. This summer, we're doing our normal 4 weeks of our summer conditioning, but backed up by 4 weeks of 2 hours of specialty in basketball and volleyball, and having that. And again, camp's $25 a week, trying to find somewhere for the kids stuff for the kids to do during the summer, but really working on it. I have the coaches come in, Coach Mona and Coach Montez, and for basketball, and Coach Lawson. And then on the volleyball side, Coach Gilmore gets all of his coaches in. He rotates them week to week. They all know, like, if Coach Gilmore's not here, you would think Coach Gilmore's here because the system that he's put in place. It's the same on the basketball side. You wouldn't know if Coach Montez or Coach Munderland or Coach Lawson is or isn't here because the system is put in place. You know, I'm part of the girls basketball program now, coaching with Coach Munderland. You know, and you're right. He does need to be on one of these podcasts because he's got a lot of stuff and knowledge to share. I mean, I really think you go back. Coach Hurt's basketball team made state, and Coach Kemper's girls team made state. You know, we're going to Texas State, and you saw Coach Lawson get on the bus, Coach Munderland drive up there. I drove up there. Coach Montez drove up there. Those are your basketball coaches who are running the basketball program who are there. We had our elementary coaches. One of our elementary coaches drive up there. That's how it should be. That's where your continuity as coaches really starts going, and they're like they want to learn and be part of it, you know.
For sure.
You know, and that's what I say. That's what it's about, you know, and really building the program in the off season, you know. And again, basketball ended, and they were a week later. We were in the gym in the off season program, and that was something. Again, we're like, basketball's in October. We'll look at it over the summer. It's like, nope, we didn't win. Even if we did win, it's like, hey, let's go back to back or whatnot. And I think the playing at the summer leagues really, really help us. I mean, the girls are already 3-4 games in on their summer league program this summer. We're already the girls basketball and the boys start, I believe, tomorrow. So, you know, we have a lot of stuff going on and really trying to, you know, give them that experience that they need.
Well, and they come in and fight in shape, you know, right? Like they come in, like you were talking about, when you show up, you should be conditioned. Right. And if you do things year round, they come in with a better mindset. And not to mention, I stand by this 1,000%. I've been doing it for years. The times of my life when I wasn't working out are the times of my life when I had to deal with anxiety, when I had to deal with stress, when I had to deal with the things I didn't want to deal with about life. Right. But when you're getting after it every day, and when you're part of that, like you just feel 1,000% better. Everything's golden. Right. And when kids struggle too, you know. It's become almost in vogue for people to have some sort of, I have bipolar, I have anxiety, or I have depression. Like it's sort of forced on them from the outside world, ironically enough. And then the other part about the summer programs that I really like is that we have them, you know, in a safe place 365 days a year, essentially. So that's what we want. We want kids to have a place where there's a positive outlet, where they're not, you know, getting in trouble or being exposed to things that we don't want them exposed to. I'm sure mom and dad don't want them exposed to, but if they're here, we know that they're structured in either academics or athletics, and that's really important. And then this year we have Summer Boost again. We got it granted the whole day, so it's from 8 to 5. It's zero cost to the families, and this is for K-8. In particular. But, you know, our high school kids that are on the athletics teams, they can be here in the summer, and they can work with those kids too. And that's another level. They've added community service, or they've added a tutoring thing to what they're doing that makes them better. So the more we keep the kids together and keep them working, I think the better off we're going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have 185 kids signed up for Summer Boost already.
Let's double it. Mom and dad, let's double that. Let's get to 400.
And, you know, like you said, even, you know, the summer program, I always tell the kids, we do it 8 to 10, at least for the conditioning part. You know, we want to add more sports camps and stuff with the coaches, but I always tell them SeaWorld and VS Tech don't open until like 10:30. So we're giving you a time before you go spend your day with your friend to come work out. Neighborhood pools don't open until 12. Your basketball, volleyball player, come do both and then go to your neighborhood pool. The pool's going to be open until 8. You know, I try to give them a real life scenario. Like, you can't be like, oh, well, my friend's this and I'm going to go do this. Like, come do that before you do that. Like, have all your stuff packed the night before, put it in the car, come work out, then get in the car and go do what you want to do. And you already got your workout, and you're already ahead of the game for the day.
And to me, that's, and you talk about once you get into the next level in life, right? That's the selfish part. You have to be a little bit selfish, and you have to say, nothing comes before my workout. I'm going to make sure that I get that piece in, because if I do, the rest of my day is better. I've got dedication. I've got discipline. I have better health. I have better sleep. Everything is better for me if I do a workout. And we lose that once we get out of high school and you get the demands put up upon you by the outside world, right? And I don't want that for kids. It's the folks that keep after it, that keep involved in something that really it makes an impact. What do you think, Coach?
Absolutely.
You ready to go to the gym?
I'm ready to get to the gym. Yes. I think that's the importance of the process is, like he said, is everything that we do. The summertime is just being here, being active, becoming a family, working together. You trust each other more when you come around each other, and you know their work ethics. And if you know that they're pushing each other when the season comes, it just makes the season so much easier.
And I mean, I go back to the COVID time a little bit too, and winter time when people would get sick, we'd have to step in for each other. We'd sometimes do some joint practices. So if somebody wasn't there, we weren't falling far from that. And, there was times that coaches weren't here. Even last year, we got hit by, I think, the stomach flu, and coaches were out. Somebody else was coaching. It was somebody else taking over the team, and you wouldn't think that wasn't the coach. If you walked in and were like, oh, that's the head coach, you wouldn't have thought, oh, this is the coach who's just stepping in for the night. It
all comes back to culture and climate and character, right? I mean, nobody, Coach Hurt doesn't want to come in, do his job all day, and then do somebody else's. Coach Hurt, and you both know this because you both are PE teachers too. If you get too many teachers call in and I don't have enough subs, then you end up with another class or two classes or whatever in your room because you're subbing for that period of the day, right? That is the killer of culture and climate right there, because people feel like everybody's not pulling their weight. And athletes, I think, recognize it faster because you play on teams and you realize that person matters to me and I matter to that person in return, right? In the Army, you're not taught this in basic training, but as you go through and Marines, Air Force, all of it, right? As you get a little bit further down the path, you realize you don't go to war, you don't fight a war, you don't put your life at risk for your country or your flag or your family history, right? It becomes the man on your right and the man on your left. That's what you're there for. That's who you serve for. And I think that's really important and impactful. And again, it's a life skill that we learn in athletics as athletes, that when you take it out into the world, it applies. I can't stand if I've let somebody on my team down because I didn't do my part. It just isn't something, and again, it ruins your climate and your culture. It's something that we have to always work at.
I know where we're at in the time, but we didn't touch on all the pillars, and one of them is competition and compete, and we're going to beat the 58 minutes, just so you know.
Oh, okay.
But I did want to go back to some of the pillars because we didn't touch on them. We used the words because they're so common, but another one is compete. And I think a lot of times, when I say the mental aspect, kids are, if it's like 20, we're up by 20, 30 points in basketball, is easy. But how are you going to play when we're down by one or we're up by one? Like, where's that competition factor? And that's where Competition Friday came from, was teaching the kids that it's something different. It's not the ball's in my hand down by one, I'm at bat with the bases loaded. It's maybe you're on a team and we're tug of warring or we're pulling a tire. Like, are you going to do everything you can to win and compete? Even going into the iReady that we do for our elementary and middle school kids, I tell them to compete to be better than their classmates in that. Goes even into the classroom, compete to get a higher grade. Compete, even goes on to the state standardized testing. We want to be that school that we're competing, that everybody's wanting to compete against because we're at the top. And that's what I try to tell the kids, even the regular PE kids and the athletes and everything. Let's compete at your grades, or maybe compete in what you're good at, the art program, the band, drama, whatever it is, because we go compete in those areas as well.
And that was the vision for my Somerset, Texas stats, right? To raise our stats, Somerset, Texas assessment throwdown. I bought that 6-foot trophy, and we use it for everything from Special Olympics to third grade competitions between the schools in mathematics to, anything. In the Trophy Bowl, we've got one of those between us and base and football. Like, anything that we can do to compete and make the kids feel like, hey, I got this trophy. There's only one trophy. It's 1 6-foot trophy in the entire district. And that goes to the winning team each Friday. And I think competition is, again, it's one of those things where you have to build resiliency in kids. I say it all the time, but you have to build resiliency in kids. You don't want to do that suffering some of the hardships that we went through growing up, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to build resiliency through the negative interactions in life. If you can build resiliency through a standardized test or playing soccer or running laps or all these things that are happening within a safe space, then you're going to grow them into, strong adults, right? If we avoid the resiliency piece because we avoid the competition piece, then I think it becomes a real concern for kids as they grow and age out from us and they move on. Well, what are you going to do when your college professor says, you can't turn this in, it's 4 weeks late?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not going to take this for a grade. And you don't have that resiliency. What are your goals? You can drop out of college, you fail the class and try again. Well, now you've built resiliency, but you got an F on your transcript.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when we can build resiliency in kids through safe means, the more we can do that, I think the better. So I love the compete pillar, and I love how you guys use it constantly.
And sometimes competition, it gets the best out of everybody, including a coach too. The higher the stakes, the more, you can kind of see the coach in practice and being more intentional with everything that we do. And, the competition Friday is my favorite day of the week. If we did it every day of the week, I think it would lose its value. I think you got to have it to be this. We don't have Coach Saffold on Friday, so we're 2 weeks away from Competition Friday. Like, they got to have something to look forward to. And Competition Friday is not like, oh, here's 5-on-5, let's play basketball. It's something completely not that.
I've seen it. I love it. It really is incredible. They get after it. They don't want to lose. And unfortunately, there's been a couple instances. It's PE, and you have an opportunity to get hurt, and a couple of kids, get hurt at school, and you have to sit down and have that conversation with parents and but I can't believe they got hurt in PE. But at the same time, you're like, but yeah, they're still building all these skills, and hopefully the injury when they're young, they're resilient enough to bounce back from it, and it'll be okay. But you can get hurt a lot of different ways, What are your thoughts on that, on competition, Coach?
I love the competition. And then it also, when it comes down to competition, you start learning trust for your each player. You start learning who you can trust in a game. And that is so valuable because I'll say incidents with us with basketball in our regional game. One of our athletes went down, slight ankle sprain. And because he was so valuable, the guys was like shaking, like, where is he? We need him. Now, were we better than the other team? Yes, we didn't need him, but they wanted him on the bench because they trusted what he brought to the table because he earned that. He was always the one, and he's one of the ones that always stands out, even in the athletics. I go to athletics and I'm watching those athletes, and it's always the one that stands out in everything that he does or everywhere they go. So that competition phase really lets the other athletes know who they can trust, who they can depend on when things get when the game is won, you're down by one, who can you depend on at that moment? And that competition phase really helps us know those athletes that can handle that pressure and who we can trust in at times.
Yeah, I love it. And I love that all of the programs that we do out here, they're open. Some of our female athletes are just, you don't want to mess with them because they're that good.
Yeah, coach at 6th grade cross country and track girls.
Our best snare drum player in the whole school is also female, and she's wicked fast and wicked accurate. And I'm loving all that and seeing that our program's working. We're giving all kids an opportunity, regardless of their background, regardless of their interests, to be a part of something. And even some of the kids in PE, can I come to athletics? They see what's happening in athletics, and they want to switch out of regular PE and be in athletics. And so you're growing those kids too. They want to be a part of something. That's what everybody wants in this world, is to be a part of something that they value. And I think we're working really hard, and we're building those types of things. Just real quick, we're going to finish this up today here, but we've made some investments already, but the new baseball scoreboard was a big hit. I know the family's been waiting on it for years. I think we're going to recondition softball for next school year because it does work. I don't know if we need a new one, but we're going to make it all super cool with the Bears logos and do all that stuff for them and make sure everything's updated on it. And then this summer, I know you were asking me last year about redoing the bleachers, making sure they're all fully operational. Everything is safe. Everything's good to go. So that project's going to cost us about $28,000. So it's not going to be a cheap one, but we're going to knock it out. And then, like I said, we're adding that massive computer lab. We're going to bring in some audio video equipment, the things that those kids can use to make your teams better, right? Like if they're up here filming, you're breaking down video, you're turning it in from full length video into short clips, whatever it is. That's all a big part of the success of a program. I mean, what Eric Spoelstra, right? His claim to fame is he started with the Heat filming with a camera. That's all he did. And then he became one of the winningest coaches. And that's an amazing story. So we want to provide those opportunities for our kids. Anything, that families, that you have questions and concerns, want to reach out about it, anything that you could suggest, or if you've got $17,000 for some new hurdles for Coach Hurt, give us a ring. We'll gladly gladly take those hurdles. But we've got a good solid plan for next year as far as resources go, and we're going to develop 3-year plans and eventually 5-year plans. And before you know it, we won't be touchable. I mean, there's a lot of great things happening here at Somerset Academy Collegiate. I thank both these guys for coming in today, Coach Hurt and Coach Soffit. And if there's anything that we can do, check us out at SomersetAcademyTX.org. That's Somerset Academies of Texas. We ought to check out our website and schedule a tour. Come see what we're up to. Have a great day, everybody.